Starting now.
You're on.
What a day. Oh, hi! Didn't see you there. It's Will with Farrington Nature Link. Today we're getting outside together to explore animal tracks, scats, and bites. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what Farrington Nature Link is. We're a nonprofit based in Lincoln, Massachusetts, and we work to get urban, underserved youth outdoors and form meaningful connections with nature with an emphasis on health and wellness. You might ask yourself, what does getting outside have to do with health and wellness? Being outdoors helps reduce the risk of anxiety, depression, and it just makes you feel good. Sometimes when I'm feeling angry or sad or tired or scared, I can come outside, enjoy some time outdoors, and I feel better every time. It always helps rejuvenate the soul a little bit, and it's something special. So before we get started today, let's talk a little bit about safety. Chris and I are going to be staying 6 feet apart from each other at least at all times for social isolation. And I'm wearing some protective clothing as well. I'm wearing big hiking boots because they support my ankle well. And if you look around here, the earth is really rocky and uneven. So that's a good thing to have. Some people prefer sandals, sneakers, whatever you want when you get outside, so long as it's safe and comfortable for you. I'm also wearing long pants because it's tick season, and they help protect from ticks. If you don't know what a tick is a little brown or black bug, and sometimes they can bite you. And if they stay in you for a couple days, they can sometimes give you a disease. So it's important that after you go outside in the spring, summer, and fall, that you do a tick check afterwards. And that means just looking underneath your armpits, behind your knees, having a family member or a friend check your back. And if they see a tick, just pluck it and pop it on out. Before we get started looking for signs of animals, we're going to do a little segment called What's in My Bag. I'm going to come on over to you guys so you can set this up on this nice wooden bench right here. I love this walkway. They're just whole trees cut in half. It's a really beautiful place. By the way, we're in Estabrook Woods today, Concord, Massachusetts. Some places nearby you that you might want to get outside. Either the woods around towns like these near to Boston, or Middlesex Fells Reservation in Boston, Blue Hills Reservation right outside of Boston. Awesome places to experience really beautiful nature and kind of the best of what New England has to offer. It's a really unique location. So let's get started. What's in my bag? We're just going to go through some things that Chris and I like to carry with us when we get outdoors to be safe and have a good time. I carry an extra jacket in case it starts to get cold or rainy. I like to carry an extra hat with me just because sometimes it's nice to switch up your fashion. It feels good. I have a little finger piano because sometimes it's nice to get outdoors and play music either by yourself or sharing that time with some friends. I keep a journal. Some people carry journals, some people don't, but it's really nice because I get to draw things that I see outside. I get to write about things that I'm feeling or experiencing outdoors, and I really like having one of those around with me. That's really important for me personally. I carry a little medical kit. This one's nothing special, just has some band-aids, some gloves, maybe a pair of tweezers to pull out a tick if we have one. But it's a good thing to have with you just in case. Because even if you might not get hurt, you might be outdoors and you see somebody fell down, and they might need a hand. So it's good to carry a medical kit with you. I carry a spotting scope. This is a really exciting thing to have, and I don't always bring it with me, but Chris and I thought we'd bring one today so that we can see things from far away. It's almost like a little binocular, but just for one eye. You can close one eye and look into it. And boy, is Chris big right now! A little spotting scope, that's a nice thing to have. What else do we have in here? This is beautiful. This is Chris's, but it's a little compass in a wooden case. If you don't know what a compass is, it's a tool that lets you see which direction you're looking. And this is great, so if you get lost out in the woods, it's real important to have a compass with you in case anything happens. Put that there, keep that nice and safe. I always carry a snack. You eat that after this is done. I like to carry a multi-tool. This one has pliers, a knife, and just a couple useful things to have around. And maybe if we see some scat, which we'll talk about a little bit later. If you don't know what scat is, we're going to find out. If we see some scat and we're lucky enough, maybe we can take some of these tools to pull it apart, see what's inside. Let's see here. I have a headlamp in case we get lost and we're stuck out here at night. Although it's 11 in the morning and it's going to be light till 7, and we know where we are right now. So it seems unlikely, but it never hurts to have it with you. And the last thing that I like to carry around is just a piece of tape. Because you never know, in case something breaks, it's good to fix it. And my water bottle. Hydration is incredibly important. And actually, I'm going to take a nice sip from that right now. While I'm doing this and putting my things away, right as we get started in the lesson, I want you guys to think about what are some signs of animals we might see outside today, and comment them in the video. It seems like last time people were commenting and it wouldn't show up for a little bit, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do it right now while I put some stuff away, and then we'll get started. That's good. I'm going to put this in my pocket. I think I might just want to use that later. What do you think, Chris? Anything from the fans?
No comments yet.
No comments yet. Well, that's okay, because we have some things that we found already today that we're really excited to share with you that show signs of animals outdoors. Chris, if you want to come on over here, found something really interesting already, and I'll get out of your way. And maybe I'll point with a stick.
Well, we have someone asking, what does it feel like today? Is it warm?
Oh, geez, good question. It is a beautiful spring day. And it's about 60 degrees outside. It's sunny. It's only going to get warmer. And it's warm enough that even I could feel this brook right here. Get down with it. It feels so refreshing and good. It's a beautiful day to be outside, and there's nothing quite like it. This brook is really cool. You know, this is probably coming from a spring, which means that water is just coming right out of the earth. It's popping out of the soil and coming down here. And it's fed by rain. It's fed by the snow that might be melting in the springtime. And that means this water is really cold. But Chris, come check this out. Come check this out. What do you guys see here? Right down here. I'll give you guys a hint. It looks like something pressed into the ground here. There's another one. These two right here. There's another one right here. Another one here, here. And it's heading. It looks like it's moving down to the water. It looks like it's moving down to the water. What do you think could have been stepping here to make its way to get a drink? Do you think that's a sign of something in particular right there? What do you guys think? We'll see if we get a response. But these are animal tracks. And in this kind of ground, this mud here, it's especially easy to see the animal tracks. Do you think, Chris, right where you're standing, if you point at the ground there, do you think it's easy to see animal tracks and that kind of dry soil right there?
Not so easy.
Not as easy, not at all. Mud or snow is the best place to see them, and you'll find awesome, well, animal tracks like this. This looks to me like it could have been something small, maybe a raccoon, maybe a coyote, maybe even a dog, and it walked right on down here. The reason I don't think it's a deer or something is because the tracks are so close together. It's hard for me to imagine a deer fitting all 4 of its legs in such a tight spot. But maybe it is a couple deer that came down in one place and have all their feet together. Maybe it stood here for a while drinking and shifted its front feet into different places to fill those gaps. That is so cool. And the soil's nice and mushy. Look at that. It's nice and wet. So if I stepped right in there, I think I'd leave probably a really good track. Let's come on, check them out right over here. Let's go on a little adventure. There's something else Chris and I saw. If you want to come on over. It doesn't look quite as much like a track to me. Right here. But what Chris and I were thinking is that maybe this is where some sort of animal might have come in and it might have dug into the soil here to look for insects to eat or other little bugs. All this light that's underneath the leaves. What do you guys think? What kind of animal do you think digs holes in the ground to look for bugs? I have a very special, particular one that's very stinky that lives in the woods around here that loves to do this. And let's see if you can guess it while we move on to another location. Something else to check out. Does that sound good to you, Chris?
That sounds great.
Think it's a small animal, and it smells really bad, and it loves to dig for things underground. Here, Chris, I'm gonna walk this way and grab my bag with me. Alrighty. What do you guys think? A stinky animal. I have a feeling you guys have already guessed it, and we're just not seeing the answer. But it's a skunk. It's a skunk. Skunks are incredibly good at coming down here in this beautiful kind of dry soil or into the mud and scooping around for insects. And we might even see other signs of skunks or raccoons and other animals that like to do that. Well, let's see here. Let's come down closer to this water. I have another quiz question for you guys. We're out here by a wetland. Last week we did an episode about vernal pools, which are a really particular type of wetland. And this is a wetland that doesn't have any plants growing in it. It's big, it's deep, it's full of water. Let's see if you guys can tell us what kind of wetland that is when we think about our next animal sign we have right here. Do you have any responses about the skunk, Chris? Yeah, is that what people thought it was?
People would think of skunks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. An animal that loves to live in wetlands is a beaver. It's a beaver. And if you don't know what a beaver is, they're a rodent. You know, they can be about this big. They can grow to like 10 or 15 years old. And they're really amazing creatures for a lot of reasons. Beavers are kind of the architects of the forest. And they like to use their mouth, which is an interesting tool, to chop down trees to build their lodges out of and their dams out of. And we'll get a chance to look at a beaver lodge and a dam in just a little bit. But before we do that, come on down here, Chris. I will move out of your way, and let's just examine these bite marks and see what we notice about those. If that tree, here, I'll put my foot in there. This is my foot. It's like a size 10 boot. That's a pretty big tree. Maybe 6, 7, 8 inches in diameter. A beaver can chop down a tree that big in maybe 10 to 20 minutes. And an 8 foot tall tree, I think they can chew that down in about 5 minutes. So if we do a little bit more math, this tree looks to me, if you see it lying down here on the ground, maybe it's like 20, 30 feet tall. Maybe in 10 to 20 minutes they could chew that down with just their mouth. Do you guys think this is a new beaver bite or an old beaver bite by looking at the wood? What do you guys think? Leave it up for discussion. It's beautiful out here. Okay, should we move on to our next sign of an animal that we found?
Yeah, I'll let you know as people comment.
Okay, let's see if they comment on that one. A new beaver bite or an old one, looking at that wood?
We have a question, Will.
Uh-huh.
What do the beavers use the trees for?
Oh, great question. Well, here, we can actually see something. If you come on down here, we'll show you what the beavers use the trees for. I got snagged. I'm stuck in a stick, Chris. Oh, God. Oh, how did this happen? Oh, my God. You guys see that skull torn off in my pants? Oh, my goodness gracious. There we go. I'm free. You don't use them for that. That was my own fault. Let's see. Can you see this out there? Across the water? You might see it up against the trees there. That's a beaver lodge, and they use sticks that they collect over time, throughout their lifetime, to build these lodges. That's their little home. If you could imagine you were a beaver, you would swim under the edge of that lodge, and inside would be a mound of dirt, maybe sticks that they live on, and it's an impenetrable fortress. No coyotes, no wolves can get in there, just the beavers or maybe some aquatic animals, maybe a muskrat, maybe a fish. But they're in there, and they're just probably sleeping in there today right now. Beavers tend to come out in the evening, the night, and the early morning. So if it's almost noon, we probably won't see one. But they're likely just holed up there taking a nap. So they use their sticks to build their lodges, their homes, and they use them to build dams. If you don't know what a dam is a bunch of sticks that they build up against the edge of a creek. Like if we look at this creek coming down through the woods here right now, if we imagine beavers built their dam right at the end of it, it would stop a lot of the water from coming through, and the water would pile up against that dam, and it would start to fill this forest. And all of a sudden, this forest wouldn't be a forest anymore. It'd be a wetland. It could be a swamp, or if enough time has passed, it can turn into a beautiful pond like this. The beaver dam is big enough. And the dams are really important. Beavers are kind of like architects of the forest. They're creating this dam, and they're using it to turn areas into wetlands, because a lot of their food comes from wetlands. They can grow lily pad tubers that way, and other aquatic plants. And when I say aquatic, I've been using that word a lot. Aquatic just means something that lives in water. Other aquatic plants, well, mosquito, dunzo. Sorry, that was kind of brutal. They use them almost like farms. They build these wetlands, and they get aquatic species of plants growing that they can then eat. And the other miraculous thing that happens is those provide amazing ecosystems for other critters to live in. You might remember what an ecosystem is from last week, but an ecosystem is just a place where animals and plants are interacting, they're living with one another, they're communicating with one another, and they're growing together. So when a beaver builds its dam and it floods a forest with water, it fills it up with water, they're creating a place for frogs to live in, fish to live in, turtles to live in. They're creating a place for aquatic plants like water lilies to grow in, or ragweed, or cattails. And I think one of my favorite things that happens is when that dam stops that water, it builds up a layer of dirt called silt, really fine, small pieces of dirt. And that layer builds up against the dam. As the water pushes through that, it cleans the water. And it can take toxins out of the soil, like pesticides, things that can kill animals that people have accidentally put in there. It can take those things out of the water and clean it so that when it flows downstream, it's better for the rest of the planet. And I think that is one of the coolest things in the world. It's like truly, that's like so amazing.
That's awesome.
A closing thought on beavers, unless you guys have more questions. How are people different from beavers? And how is a house that we build with tools different from a house that beavers build with tools? I think that's a cool thing to think about. And a lot of the time when students ask me, what's up with all these animals, you know? And I say, are we animals? And they say, no. I like to think about beavers, because how different is a skyscraper from a dam that a beaver is building? Think about that. Let's go check out some cool stuff. Come on. Let's go see what's going on down here. Chris and I found something real... Oh, it's over here. It's over here. What, we're at 18 minutes? Okay. Loads of time. Coming on down here. What's this guy you see? Any more questions, by the way, Chris?
No questions yet?
Okay. Look at this guy right in here. What's this that we're looking at? Floating in the water. You're going to answer it because I know you know the answer. That's a feather, and there's another one Chris is pointing at right over there. That's a great sign of an animal. And there might be some birds that like to come on down here, maybe like a goose or a duck. And maybe they like to sleep in this little watery cove right here. It's protected. There's trees overhead so bigger birds can't fly down and eat them. It's out of the way of predators. It's off the trail. But do you think something could have happened to one of these birds down here? If a bird got eaten, do you think it would have left behind some feathers or some other clues? There's a lot of things that could have happened here. But we know that there are birds here, which I think is absolutely amazing. A quick little thing to look at. It's not an animal. It's a plant. It's right here. And it's named after the little stinky skunk we were talking about earlier. This is skunk cabbage. Chris, I'm going to get kind of close to you, just a heads up. If you get down to one of these, oh god, it smells so bad. It smells so bad. And you smell it? That thing just smells like a skunk. This smells like a skunk. But they're so beautiful. They're these purple, kind of veiny, smooth structures. They're curving, and as it grows bigger, it's going to have these cabbage-like leaves that sprout out all around it. There's actually some right over there, Chris. You see those guys?
Yep.
Those are way bigger. And it actually looks delicious, but it smells horrible, so I don't think I'm going to eat it today. No thanks.
Well, we have a question from one of our viewers.
Yeah, what's up?
What does the water feel like?
Ah, good question. This water here, this actually feels pretty nice. Right here, the water, is it flowing anywhere? It's not. It's staying in one place. And what's coming down and hitting it? The sun. You can see it reflecting off. So this water, it's not warm, but compared to the water we felt earlier in that brook, in that stream, it's actually quite warm. This is really nice. Maybe if you were a skunk, you'd come down here and take a bath. What do you think about that? Well, Chris, oh, no, never mind. Thought it was some eggs. What do you think, Chris? Should we go on and look at something else down the trail?
Do it.
Let's go check it out. We don't have too much time left, so why don't we head on down to the last thing that we were looking at, and we can maybe explore that at the very end. Chris and I had a wonderful walk this morning. We met up at 10 or so and just took a nice stroll through the woods. We looked at signs of glaciers, things that glaciers have left behind. If you don't know what a glacier is, back in the Ice Age, millions of years ago, there was ice flowing all around us, and we were under hundreds of feet of it, gliding overhead, and it shaped a lot of the landscape underneath it, including creating most of these ponds that we get to see. We're leaving big rocks like that one. Do you see that one in the water there? Leaving big rocks like that called erratics. Erratics. If you don't know what erratic means, it's a word that means kind of random. So those rocks are called erratics because the glaciers would drop them off in the soil erratically, randomly. They're all over the place out here. See them everywhere you go. We had such a great walk though, and we were talking about trails. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this is cool. Let's see here. I think this is so neat. You might know this already, but what animal came and chewed this right here, using its front teeth? What do you think that could have been? Let's see. Let's how big is this? While you answer that question, let's measure how big this guy is. I can put my whole head in here. What do you think about that, Chris? How does that look? It's not that comfortable. You're probably answering it right now in the comments, but this is signs of a beaver here. This is a really big tree. It's a really big tree. And we see that part of it broke off here. This flat part, that's not a beaver bite. That's just where the wood seems to have broken off. And where did it land? Maybe right here. If you line up the edges, Chris, maybe you can come a little bit closer and I'll take a couple steps back. I love having all these sticks to point with. This one's so fun, almost like a little fluffy wand. See here, it's a nice clean line where it sheared in half. And here's a nice clean line up here where it broke in half. So what we think happened is the beaver chewed its way on in here, and this broke off, crack, and landed right here. There's a couple of reasons the beaver might not have taken this with them. Do you think if you were a beaver about this big and you tried to pick up a big log, oh, I can't even do it. A big log, no way. This big, it would be an easy thing to do? Probably not. Probably not. So maybe it broke it off, realized it was too big to take it with it, and left it. Or another fun beaver fact, since we've been talking about them so much today, another interesting thing about beavers is that their teeth, their front teeth, are always growing. They're always growing, and they need to chew on stuff to sharpen their teeth, to make them more dull so they don't grow too long. So sometimes they'll find really hard wood to chew on to help dull their teeth. So maybe it was just doing that. It was doing a little bit of dental care, taking care of its mouth, instead of trying to build a lodge with this. I think that's a cool little fun fact. Let's keep going. Let's check out some other signs of animals. Something we haven't really been talking about today too much although they're really common and important, are deer. Deer. And deer are everywhere in Massachusetts. They're really important type of critter. And we'll just talk about a quick sign of them. We haven't seen their scat. You didn't figure out what scat is. It's animal poop. Deer have really distinctive scat, like little brown circles. And they're easy to recognize. But something else that we can see out here, let's see, is maybe if a deer came through here, they would chew off a part of these growing plants. I'm trying to see if there's evidence of that on this one. Oh, here we go. This one's a little bit older. It's a little dead. Here, I'll just bring it off so you guys can see it out here on its own. It's easier to see that way. A deer might have come through here and just ripped. Gross. a piece of that wood off, right there with its mouth, when they would have left that behind. I don't know quite why I did that, but it's disgusting. My mouth is full of work.
Well, what's happened over here with this tree?
Oh, we got a question? Or you just want to check it out? That's a great question. What did happen with this tree? If you guys take a gander at these little holes, what do you think might have left those behind? I'll give you a couple seconds to answer. Think about it. It's on a tree. It's high up. It's higher than a deer would be able to reach. It's something that puts holes in trees and likes to eat the bugs that it finds inside, especially on these dead trees. They're full of bugs. What do you guys think? I'll let you ponder that for a second. Well, I see you can find other critters in here. Let's see. Here's something cool. Well, you guys think about this. Come on and check this out while we wait for the responses to pour in. This is what that animal would have been getting in here for. See this little nest, maybe for a spider, maybe a little egg sac for a spider that we could find behind the bark we peeled off. What do you think, Chris? And these dead trees are home to all sorts of insects. Any responses from that guy, Chris? The earlier question?
Someone asked if it was a sloth.
A sloth! Good guess. Sloths don't live in Massachusetts. Although I wish they did because they're so darn cute. Sloths don't live in Massachusetts. But the type of animal that would have come down here to poke holes in these trees would have been a woodpecker, probably. Woodpecker. There's loads of woodpeckers. Chris and I saw, well, we didn't see it, but we heard a ha 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 of a pileated woodpecker earlier. Sounds like somebody cackling or laughing at you. And they're really big, black and white breast with a big red tuft of hair or feathers on top. But there's all sorts of smaller woodpeckers, and they're kind of some of the most notable, fun, and intriguing birds, in my opinion, in the woods of Massachusetts. Should we keep moseying on over there, Chris? Yeah, let's come check it out, because, oh, we're almost out of time, but let's just keep going. What do you guys think? Should we keep going a couple minutes? I think we should, because this is really neat, and then maybe we'll call it quits out here at the end of what we're about to see. Oh, this is cool. We were talking earlier about animals that might be digging into things and foraging. If we look here, we have a really old dead tree, probably home to a lot of great bugs, pill bugs, earwigs, you name it. And it looks like some of the bark got moved over here somehow. I have a feeling that whatever animal did this came, broke into it with its paws, and you see when I push this away, pieces fly back and land over here. I bet it was tearing into that looking for bugs, and it left some evidence of itself right over here. One of my, oh, here's a smaller one that a beaver bit and dragged away too. I'm making that noise. That's a great one. One of my favorite things about coming outside to places like these is that you don't need to be a professional and know everything about getting outdoors to have a fun time experiencing it and exploring it. A lot of the things that we're talking about today are just us looking at things, observing. That means to look at and watch things. And then just being creative to try and figure out what's really going on outside. Kind of like eco-detectives, nature detectives. I got one nature detective watching this today, I know. But maybe today we're all kind of nature detectives. This is really cool, what Chris and I found earlier, down here. If you look, oh! I scared a frog. If you look at the ground underneath my feet here while I'm walking, it's really, really squishy. Really, really squishy. And it feels like I'm stepping almost on a trampoline. Almost on a trampoline. We want to be gentle because we don't want to break through. But what that's telling me, wow, a lot of insects over there. What that's telling me is that this is hollow underneath. That means there's a space underneath this mound that we're checking out. Chris, I'm going to switch places with you if you want to come and explore. But maybe we can look in the mouth of this guy over here. And we can speculate. That means we can think about what sorts of animals might have been living in here. And while you do that, I just found something I think you'll find really interesting when you're done. I'm going to come right up here and hang out for a sec. What do you guys think? That's a pretty big hole. Oh, sweater fell. That's a pretty big hole. Too big probably for a squirrel. Too big probably for a chipmunk. But there's another kind of critter that likes to live in holes like this. What I think that probably is a groundhog. Groundhog, or similar to a woodchuck. They're these big, kind of like a beaver almost. Big little critters that use their mouth and their hands to dig these big dens right here. Oftentimes they're a little farther away from water, so Chris and I were thinking this maybe could be from a muskrat also, which is like a smaller beaver. They're related to beavers. Speaking of beavers, we're even close to that beaver den, Chris. Can you see the cross there? Look at that. That thing is beautiful. You can see there are big sticks on it, little sticks, and a lot of mud. A lot of mud. But inside there, I bet it's nice and cozy. You're surrounded by water, but you have a little dry patch to rest your head on. After this, I recommend going onto YouTube and watching videos from inside beaver dens, beaver lodges. You find a lot of cool things. Another great piece of animal forensic investigation, eco-forensic investigators. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Animal forensic investigation. What we're seeing here is, if you, Chris, maybe we can come a little closer. You'll see right here that it looks like all this dirt's being piled up by something against this. And it's starting down there at the water, and it's coming up. Oh, there's a spider right in there. Look at that. Imagine that we were whatever animal's living out here. We're climbing out of the water. When we climb, we're going to be using our claws, our hands, and our feet to tear up this dirt like that. And I think this is one big animal track for an animal climbing up this hill and leaving the evidence behind. If you guys think it's something different, you should put in the comments, and we can read them out, and maybe we can hypothesize and think about what might be out here. While you guys do that, I have one last really interesting piece of animal evidence to leave you with. I just found it, and I think it's really cool. Chris, come on over here. Well, not too close. All right, here, I'll get out of your way. I'll stand on this log. Woo! Look at that. Chris, what's that right there? Do you know what those are, Chris?
Look like pistachios to me.
I think they're pistachio shells also. And there's a whole bunch of them. Look, there's some there. There's some down here, lower down. So this is what well, before we tell you what animal probably left those behind, see if you can comment it. Did anybody talk about, is there any comments about anything else, Chris, while we wait?
Nope.
I have a feeling people are posting them and we're just not seeing them, which is a bummer. But What kind of animal likes to eat pistachios? Well, I like to eat pistachios. Chris, do you like pistachios?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who like pistachios. And I have a feeling that whatever critter was out here eating pistachios is probably a person. How do we know that? How do we know that? Well, pistachios don't grow naturally in Massachusetts, so where would an animal out here come to find them? And they did a pretty big meal here, so, you know, maybe an acorn would leave quite a few acorn shells, but those are usually accumulated over time. These look like they were all left at the same time, just by judging how old they are. They're all kind of similar, looking like weathered outdoors for a similar amount of time. So, I think a person ate quite a big meal of pistachios right here. And there's nothing wrong with eating pistachios outdoors. That's great. And having a snack by a beautiful place, sharing the space with some animals, and enjoying your time outside is awesome. But it's important when we get outside that we don't leave things like this behind. There's a couple of reasons why that's important, and they're all lumped under something called Leave No Trace, and the Leave No Trace policies. People also call it LNT. Leave No Traces means that you're leaving no evidence or things that show that other people were here. Trace. And it's important for a couple of reasons. One is to preserve the health of the ecosystem. Imagine that we were out here cooking pasta and I put like a bunch of paprika in it and I was like, oh, I'm done with the pasta water, I'm just going to dump it into the pond here. All of a sudden this pond has all this paprika. Paprika doesn't grow in Massachusetts. That's not native, and maybe a fish would eat some of that and get sick. That's kind of a wild example. But we want to preserve the healthy ecosystem. Maybe a squirrel or a chipmunk that can't digest pistachio shells is going to come down here and eat these, and it might get sick or it might get it stuck inside its throat. It's important that even if you think something's natural, like a banana peel, an apple core, that's a little different because those grow naturally in Massachusetts. But if you're eating a banana peel and you're like, oh, it's outside, it's going to decompose, you don't want to leave it behind because it's not native to the area and something might try and eat it and realize that it actually can't and it might get sick. Another reason why we don't want to leave things is because we want to preserve how beautiful nature is for everybody. And when I came out onto this, I was really excited because we were going to explore whatever animal had been living in here and kind of how squishy and awesome the soil is. But instead, we found all these pistachio shells, which, you know, they're not ugly. I don't mind them that much. But imagine that you come out here and you leave behind your candy bar wrapper. That's really bad for the environment. And it's something that takes away from the beauty of it. So leave no trace policies. There's a lot of them. I recommend Googling them. But one of them is to make sure you don't leave bits and pieces behind, like that. So maybe Chris and I will clean up some of these on the way out. Oh, there's a person coming with a dog. I guess we'll clear it off then, right now. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us outdoors in beautiful Massachusetts. A couple last closing thoughts. Again, places nearby cities that you might want to check out or closer to where you might be viewing from. Middlesex Fells Reservation, Blue Hills Reservation. Blue Hills is amazing. They have a type of rattlesnake that doesn't grow anywhere else in Massachusetts. And maybe check out public parks or go for a walk down the street if you need to. It's important during these kind of troubling times to take care of ourselves, and getting outdoors is a great way to do that. Yeah, it's been a great day, and I'm excited to see you next week with Chris again. All right, see you later, everybody. Bye.